This is Get Sellers Calling You, and I'm Beatty Carmichael. Learn more at our website at getsellerscallingyou.com.
Hi, everyone. This is Caroline Springer, and welcome to the next session of Get Sellers Calling You with Beatty Carmichael. Beatty is the CEO of Master Grabber, the creator of Agent Dominator, and one of the top marketing experts in the real estate field. Today, we're going to be continuing on talking with our topic of how to make money with geographic farming. We're continuing on from last week. We spoke about postcard marketing that works and the two types of postcards. So we're going to continue on in that conversation. Just a reminder, for those of you that are on our live call, we'll have the lines muted, but open up for questions and answers at the end of the call with Beatty. So welcome, Beatty. I'm excited to continue on in our conversation.
I am too. We're getting into the exciting stuff now.
Lots of details, lots of content. I felt like last week there was, it was just one topic, but there was so much to dive into that I'm sure so many of our listeners don't even, wouldn't have even thought to think about when it comes to selecting the type of postcards to send. So I think they'll find, this call just as interesting as we continue in that, conversation.
Well, hopefully so. There is so much you can do, and as we've said a lot of times, or maybe I've said it, most agents don't get as much out of a farm as they can, simply because most agents don't know how to do it. And so hopefully with these calls, it's going to, we pull back the curtain and you start to see how to do it and say, wow, this really can happen. It can happen fast. We can make a lot of money and we can do it. So that's the goal.
Mm-hmm. That's why they have you. I'm sure many of them wish they had you from the beginning so they could save some money.
Well, they can always hire me, or they can learn everything I'm able to teach and then go to apply it themselves. We'll do it either way.
Either way sounds good. Well, did you want to do a quick review of last week, or do we kind of want to jump in? I know we spoke about self-selection cards last week, kind of the two types of postcards, and then This week we were going to continue on with Inside Reality. I didn't know if we wanted to do a refresher since there was so much, or just kind of jump in. Either way is great with me.
Well, let's do a quick refresher simply for those who haven't listened to last week's call, or maybe it's been a while since they've listened to it, and that way everything kind of gets brought up to date. So what we're talking about is in geographic farming, the postcards that you start to send out. And last week we were talking about most agents, when they send out postcards, they're not even sending out what I find to be probably the two most effective styles of postcards. Last week we talked about one style. Some people call it direct response. We call it self-selection because self-selection is probably more accurately what the postcard is trying to do. It's trying to get the homeowner who's thinking about selling to actually select themselves. So we discussed kind of in depth what that was. The second type of postcard, which is on topic for today, is what we call Inside Reality. And Inside Reality has a completely different focus where you have a self-selection card whose entire job is to get a seller to respond so you can identify who they are. The purpose of an Inside Reality card is to win the seller's mind to trust you over any other agent so that when they start to go on the market, they call you first. Okay, so self-selection card is a proactive card. They respond. You are proactively then engaging with them and following up. And the Inside Reality card is more of a reactive card, which means that you wait until they call you and then you pick up the listing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I think even some of that might be, news to some of our realtors that this is, an option of something they can send. So, no, I think that was a great explanation, though.
Good. So that's where I think, so that's our review as we get into these cards. So can I kind of take the lead and just talk a little bit about the Inside Reality cards?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's first talk about what is an inside reality card. Most people have never heard inside reality, and I want to give a little background to what it is because it's a marketing term. Okay, and the marketing term it's essentially the concept of what we call outside perception versus inside reality. It governs basically everything that happens in a selling environment, and especially with real estate agents. So the way the outside perception versus inside reality concept runs is like this. You have you as an agent, and you have the people in the farm as all the homeowners. The question is, how do you view yourself, and how do they view you? So if we were to ask that typical homeowner, what do you think about real estate agents? Here's what they say. All agents are the same. All they do is stick a sign in the yard, list the home in the MLS, and wait for someone else to come bring a buyer. And as long as the homeowners generally believe that to be true, then you will never get a lion's share of the listings because they have no reason to call you over anyone else. Because in their mind, it doesn't matter who I call. My home is going to be sold for about the same price in about the same amount of time because the agents all do about the same thing. Are you following the pattern on that, the process?
Absolutely, and I'm sure there are a lot of realtors listening that are thinking, wait, no, I'm different.
Yes. So I got to tell a story, okay? I'm on the phone with a guy named Jason. He has the largest RE/MAX team in the world. At that time, they were just doing like 1,120 transactions a year. Fast forward a couple of years now, they're over 2,000 transactions, so a huge team. And we organized a call. He was saying that he wanted my help on improving what he's doing in geographic farming. And so here's kind of how the discussion went. He's targeting 2,000 homes, and he's been targeting it for 6 months. He's been using the self-selection approach only, okay, using direct response cards, and has gotten basically nothing out of it. And so I was asking him, so the first thing we go through is what's called a trusting, does the community trust you? And I'm not even sure we talked on this topic, but that's for a whole nother discussion. But does the community trust you? And I was explaining that trust is based on branding. And I used the wrong word because most agents think of branding differently than what it really is. And he said, oh, no, Beatty, it can't be branding because I am really well branded. I said, well, tell me what you mean, Jason. He said, for the last 2 years, I've been spending $8,000 a month. That's $100,000 a year branding myself. He says, I'm on the radio, I'm on the billboards, I'm at the athletic fields, I'm in the grocery stores, I'm on the park benches. He says, I do a quarterly newsletter that's 12 pages long, and I'm sending it out to all these people 4 times a year. And he said, I'm really well branded. And so all that's happening into this community of 2,000 homes. He said, yes. I said, well, in the last 6 months, how many listings came on the market in that area? He said, a couple of hundred. I said, how many of those did you get? He said, a couple. So I said, Jason, if you're so well branded, why did only a couple of people trust you enough to sell their home? And there was this pregnant pause. And he said kind of sheepishly, I don't know. And I said, would you like to understand why? He said, yes. And now on the phone also is his assistant named Cam, and she's been with him for about 10 years. And I said, so what's going on is, and I was explaining the outside perception versus inside reality, that all of these homeowners, they view you as just another agent. And he said, yeah, you're right about that. I said, it doesn't matter that you've been on the radio and the park benches and all this stuff. They see you as doing the same thing as every other agent does. But imagine for a moment that all of those homeowners were Cam. And they understood how hard you work, all your educational level, your expertise, your drive, all the little nuances that you do in the entire process that gives your clients a competitive edge, that drives your sales at a higher sales price, a lower days on market, less hassle, and they really understand how you personally operate. If all of those homeowners were Cam, how many of those listings do you think you would have gotten? And Cam pipes up at that moment, and she said, all of them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So here's what we have, Caroline. We have this disconnect between who Jason is and who the market thinks he is. And until the market believes in Jason at the same level that Jason believes in himself and that Cam believes in him, then there will always be lots of people that choose another agent besides him. Are you following me on this understanding of outside perception versus inside reality?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm sure a lot of realtors listening are thinking, how do I show them, how hard I work and, get everybody to be a Cam where they'll definitely choose me.
Okay. So therein lies the problem. And that's why what we call the inside reality card is really probably the most important thing you can do. And it's not just a postcard, it's the content. Okay, you can deliver the content on a hand-delivered packet of information. You can deliver the content through digital means. We happen to deliver it and think that it's most effective to be delivered through a postcard for a lot of reasons, and maybe we'll talk about those as we go. But let's move back into the inside reality card. So that's what it is, okay? It's all about how do you transfer the reality of who you are and make it their perception of you. The more they perceive you as you really are, assuming you're good, okay, then the more they are going to choose you. And let's also add back in the self-selection cards, our experience. The more they perceive you as you really are, the more likely they're also going to respond to the self-selection cards. So it's a multiplier. The more you do it right, the more everything goes well. It's sort of like Reagan said many years back, rising tide raises all boats. Okay? As their perception increases about you, everything you do increases as well. So it's really a critical concept and understanding. So then we have to look at it and say, what type of content really works? Would you like to take a guess at what to do now? So now that we got the understanding, would you like to take a guess on how do you start to implement it?
Well, I know for myself, I've received some postcards before in the mail from realtors or, even maybe other industries as well. But I know for me, I'm kind of a numbers person. So seeing some kind of proof of, how good they are helps me, whether it's proof of there's, a neighbor of mine about 4 houses down. The realtor sent a card, I guess, just to our neighborhood maybe, and it said, we sold the home before it went on the market for above asking, and I think even mentioned multiple offers. But I remembered that versus, we get all kinds of stuff in the mail all the time. So for me, some kind of proof of a sale that's going to win my attention. So that would be my first guess.
Yes. So survey says you're dead on. Here's what's interesting. The easiest way to shift outside perception to your inside reality, not a complete shift, but start to move the needle, is a just sold postcard. It's absolutely the easiest thing you do. In fact, and I think we mentioned this on our call last week, but when we did with what we do in Geographic Farming years back and talking to different agents and bringing them on our services, I would always ask them, have you ever done Geographic Farming? And some said yes. And those who said yes, I would always ask, were you successful? And the only ones who said yes, when I asked them what they did, 100% of the time, they sent out just sold postcards all the time. All the time means at least once a month, if not, every 3 weeks, 18 times a year. So the first step is they've got to see that you're constantly selling. And this is one of the things that in testing and in analyzing what's going on, we found a formula, Caroline, that when you apply this formula, you consistently get great results over time in driving sales into you. And that formula is what we call the 3 S's, okay? And the 3 S's, the first one is to show off your sales, okay? Your successes. Let them know that you're actively selling, and let them know that not only are you actively selling, but you're selling really, really, really well, getting above list, getting short days on market, doing all kinds of things that they just don't see the other agents doing. Because what we believe to be true in our mind becomes our reality in a very broad sense. So as you can show them your successes on an ongoing basis, then they believe that to be true. But the opposite is also true. They don't see that with all these other agents. So when you put it on a scale, your side of the scale has a lot more weight to it. And so it tilts in your direction. So that's the first thing. So you hit it great. So then let's take that just sold postcard and let's say, how do we do better? And here's something we found that's pretty interesting. So the postcard you're talking about, Caroline, probably said just sold X number of dollars over list price or something along those lines, right?
Right, with a picture of the front of the house.
Okay. Now, if it said sold instead of just sold, would it have made the same impact to you?
Maybe. I think so. I mean, I don't know that I would have thought too much into it.
Bingo. You wouldn't have thought too much into it. Sold, $5,000 over asking price. Just sold, $5,000 over asking price. When we see the word sold, we think, good job. When we see the word just sold, we think, good job. So I don't think there's much difference between the two. And the reason I hone in on this is because now you can stack the deck in your favor. Okay? So let's say that you don't sell that many homes all the time. Maybe you're a lower volume agent and you're doing only 8 sales a year, and some of them aren't all that great. Doesn't matter. Okay? Here's what you do. You simply go back into your previous sales, last year or two, and find the ones that are good. And then you highlight those in a postcard. Sold, okay? You just don't give the date. And if you don't give the date, then you leave it up to people to go, wow, you did it again. It doesn't matter that that home was sold 3 months ago or even 13 months ago. All that matters is that you're honest with what went on and that you're showing off something that excites them so they start to believe that you're an excellent agent. Okay? Make sense?
Absolutely.
You're listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. To increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence or from a geographic farm, learn about Agent Dominator. We guarantee your sales in writing or give your money back. To learn more, visit our website at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator from the menu. And now, back to the podcast.
All right? But then let's take it a step further. All right? So all of this starts to go into how do you shift perception. Okay? You show off your sales all the time, that's starting to shift perceptions. You don't have enough sales, you go back and you pick out the best sales you've had over time, or just good ones, okay? And you start sending those out, so now you're increasing perception because more of your sales are what we call a wow sold. Wow, you did an amazing job, okay? But then let's take it now a third step further, and that goes into the second part of the 3 S's that we found, and that is to explain the secrets behind your successes, okay? So it's not just showing off a home that you sold. It's not just showing off that you sold it in fast time or in high price amount or anything like that. What then starts to matter is, I mean, all that's important, but then if we can take that and explain why, okay? So, for example, why did that home sell so fast? Well, maybe the seller said, I got to move. Do whatever you can, okay? And maybe your normal process is that you take beautiful photographs Okay, professional photography so that they show up best online. Maybe you do something special with those photography. Like I know one guy here in town, and he sells luxury area, and all of his photographs have a gorgeous hero shot, the front of the house. It's always taken at dusk so that the lights are nice and warm and shining on the inside. So when you look at the house, it just looks gorgeous. Okay, and when you look at all the photos he has for his homes, they're all absolutely gorgeous. They're things that drive more eyeballs online. So whatever it is that you do, you start to explain some of the secrets, whether you work harder, whether you do more advertising, whether you network it more, whether you use professional photography, whether you use drone photography, whether you prepare it better, whether you stage it better, whether you do anything in all these things. Each of these become things that you educate the homeowner on as part of the reason that you succeeded. For example, one of our clients, when he is marketing to his farm and he gets a new listing, he'll do something like a coming soon. Okay. Now you say, well, how does that have to do with a just sold? It plays into it. I just got another listing, which is a social proof. But then he explains, before we put it on the market, here's what we're doing. And he'll give 3 or 4 bullet points of how they're getting the home prepared. We're making repairs, we're painting it, we're decluttering, getting all the clutter out of it, and some other things. So when it goes on the market, it shows its best and it sells the fastest. So he's educating the homeowners what he's doing, and as they're seeing that this home in their neighborhood is going on the market and what this guy's doing, what do you think's going on in their mind about their perception of that agent?
Oh, I would think, they're impressed, things that, maybe they hadn't thought about that an agent would do. Again, that's setting the agent apart from other agents. I think a lot of people, too, don't even know what agents do. So even if it's maybe something that seems simple to an agent, it could be good to just, professional photography. To most agents, they probably think, well, that's, a no-brainer. But maybe to all homeowners, it's not. So even just listing something like that, it's going to start to set them apart. Wow, this agent does things differently. They do more than maybe the average agent. So starting to individualize them a little bit.
That's right. It starts to differentiate them. And here's the key. It differentiates them not necessarily because the agent is different than other agents in his class, okay? If you're a top 10% agent, probably you do very similar activities that other top 10 agents do. But the homeowner doesn't know what the other top 10 agents do. So when you explain it, then it differentiates you in their mind because no one else is explaining it. So now that if we put this on a scale, your side of the scale gets heavier and heavier, leaning them towards you. And so this is what we're talking about. Share the secrets behind what you do. So if we go back to my client, so he does, coming soon, then he does a just listed. Hey, we just got this on the market. I created a custom website for this. You can actually go there. It's first page on Google right off the bat. I do it that way so we get more people looking at it because that's how my homes sell more. So he's educating them what he does. Then, when that home goes under contract, he might send out a under contract. We got this under contract in only 7 days, and we got 3 offers on this home because of diligent preparation and amazing strategic marketing. Okay? And so he's constantly explaining the secrets, and then when the home is sold, and then he may say, sold for, 101% of asking price, sold for $1,000 over list price. And he explains a little bit more. So what he's doing is each time something goes out, he's explaining what he did to make that home sell. And then go back to the perception. Every time the homeowner gets those cards, that homeowner's getting persuaded, okay? So now, what do you think my client does if that home is in a different area of town than his geographic farm? Where do you think he sends those same postcards, those coming soon, just listed, under contract, just sold? Any idea? Does he send them to a farm that they're not listed in?
I wouldn't think so, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I wouldn't think it would make as much sense to do that.
All right. So let me ask you a question. If you see a home that looks similar to yours, but you don't know that it's across town, but I mail you that postcard anyway, does that start to impress you about me selling homes like yours?
It does. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought that they would know it was in a different area. So yes, if they didn't know.
Okay, now you bring up a perfect point. This is where agents get a little myopic. Most people think that when you send out a just sold or all that stuff, you have to put the address on the card. Just leave the address off, and now they can't tell if it's their neighborhood or not. And because of doing that, now you can continually send out new sales, new listings, new contracts, everything that's going on, and still hit the same list over and over again. Because what we're trying to do is most people, when they get a new listing, they only mail around that listing. Hey, I'm just listed a new home in your neighborhood. But which do you think is going to be more effective, Caroline? Someone gets a listing in your neighborhood, so they mail you a postcard or two about that, and then you never hear from them again because they are now selling some other home in some other neighborhood. Or you get a postcard all the time from the same agent because of all of the sales he's got going on all over town. Which of those two instances do you think you're going to become more favorable toward that agent and trust that agent more?
Definitely the second, where you're hearing from them more. And again, like you said, I think just leaving the address off and showing a photo, especially, they don't know. It could just be, a few streets over of a home they didn't know. So I think, hearing from them more and, not just homes that are nearby, but around in general, I think is the more you're in front of them, the more favorable they're going to think towards you, especially if they're seeing you sell and seeing you list and under contract and things like that. So
yep.
I think definitely the more the better.
So here's a simple conclusion to all of this. Stop doing geographic farming the way most people think you have to. Most people say, well, you only send out just listed or just sold to the same area that you did that. No, the most important thing is to send out just listed and just sold to the same addresses over and over and over and over and over again, so they start to trust you and start to choose you. That's what geographic farming is all about. You constantly target that same farm regardless. So now here's a little secret that we use. Maybe the home looks different on the outside, that the external design of the home is a different design style than the neighborhood you're targeting. So in those cases, all we do, and I suggest that you guys do, is use an inside photo instead of an outside photo. Just think out of the box. Show a photo of the den or the kitchen or the master bath or anything like that, because once you get outside of the exterior of the home, then the interior is going to be pretty much all alike. And now you can leverage a home from any sale into that. I know we're getting close to running out of time, but I want to cover a couple of things real fast. So content that works. Show off your secrets. You need a little help? Go to your listing presentation and pull stuff out of your listing presentation to talk about. Your integrity, your discipline, your expertise, your education, how you do promoting, whatever your listing expert presentation is, that will give you at least topical content that you can think about to put this stuff together. And let's see, before we, because I know we're getting close to the time, do you have any questions?
Well, I did think just, in us talking about postcards, a few things that I thought could be good. I have heard a lot of people ask about the difference between, does it really matter if you do a jumbo-sized or regular-sized postcard? So I thought that could be something good, I guess, for me to ask you.
Okay, sure.
So, myself and our listeners could learn maybe what you feel the difference is in that.
Well, would you believe that I've tested that?
I'm not surprised. You've tested almost anything I can probably think of, so I'm not surprised.
Yes, I'm one of these guys that I'm very critical. I don't believe anything anyone says until I can go prove it myself. So I used to hear all the time, jumbo outperforms regular size postcards. You go look up on websites and stuff, everyone says jumbo outperforms. So we've tested it. We've tested it, I think, between 4 and 5 times, thousands and thousands of split AB mailings. And here's our conclusion, and it's pretty accurate. And it's real accurate, actually. If I'm doing a self-selection card, jumbo or regular size gives me essentially the identical result. Makes no difference. And there's some reasons behind that. I won't get into that because we're running short on time. But if I'm going to do an inside reality card where I'm trying to explain the secrets, then jumbo works better than regular simply because I have a larger size to give more content. Okay, so that's actually the solution between jumbo and regular. If you're trying to educate, jumbo is better. If you're doing direct response, either one will give you basically the same results. Pretty cool, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I think that was good, even just to hear what you said originally. You know, it kind of depends on what type of card. Sometimes regular will work better. So, or, I mean, not better necessarily, but the same, I guess. That's what you were saying originally, and then it just depends on what you send. So, because I know probably all over the Internet, like you said, it recommends the jumbo, so that's good to know. It depends.
Yep.
Another thing I was thinking, too, that could be a good question to ask or for us to maybe just hit on was, you know, if there was just one thing that was maybe the most important thing that you would, you know, do or say on a postcard, you know, or what is the single most important thing to kind of focus their energy and time on?
That's a great question. and that's very insightful. Most people will never ask that question. And by the way, the questions you ask determine how successful you'll be, because that's the only way you're going to get the right answers. So the most important part of all of these, believe it or not, is going to be your headline. The headline on the postcard, those first few big words at the top of the postcard, will determine whether someone even engages on the postcard or throws it away. So studies have shown, and there's no specific number, but somewhere between probably 75 to 85% of the success of your marketing is the headline. And in some circles, the headline is called the interrupter, meaning you've got to interrupt that prospect and grab their attention so they'll actually engage in your marketing piece, or in this case, engage in your postcard, or you don't get their attention at all. So if you're going to spend time anywhere, you spend it on the headline. And the way that you do it, we do this even with our clients. You know, we'll write 20 or 30 headlines at times for one simple postcard. We're saying the same thing in different ways, trying to figure out what's the best way to say it that is the most powerful. And it's amazing when you just focus on it, you will find headlines that are a lot more powerful than the previous ones, and that's going to drive your results. So most important thing is going to be the headline.
Well, good. I think that was probably insightful for some of our realtors, too. I'm sure maybe a lot of them, like you said earlier, maybe just write it just sold or something like that. So I think that was probably a good little tip for them to kind of spend their energy and time focusing on that to make sure that's perfected to actually get the person to continue reading. So that makes
sense. So let me give you a quick example. You're talking about just sold. Okay, so I'm going to do a just sold, and I'm going to give some insight into what I did with that home. So you get a postcard that says, just sold, $235,000, shows a picture, and then there's content. The next postcard is going to say, just sold for $235,000. Read the amazing story of what actually happened, ... Which of those two postcards are you more likely to actually start to read?
Probably the one with the ... at the end.
Yep.
Just because that's kind of like continuing. I don't know. It just feels like I want to finish the sentence. I want to know where it's going.
Okay, perfect. So there's several things involved with that headline. Just sold for $235,000. Read the amazing story of what actually happened. So that creates curiosity. What's the story behind this one? Why is it so amazing? The ... is a continuation. It's not a hard stop, so it says, it's basically that mental cue that says continue. So what that headline does is creates curiosity and creates a desire to then continue. The other one just sold $235,000 or 30, whatever it was, doesn't lead you anywhere. It's a dead end. And so that's the power of the headline. It can cause that person to stop, get curious, and to read more. And that's when your card takes shape.
Well, that makes a lot of sense too. I love all your explanations on these, because really, you are a marketing expert, and a lot of realtors obviously aren't. So there are things that you've seen and tested and know, and that's a lot of probably marketing language of like how to creatively word, a headline is probably not something that a lot of realtors are trained in. So I think that was, informational and good for them to hear. And then the last thing I was thinking too, I know we talk a lot about, being consistent with, how often they send and things like that. So is there, I guess a magic, equation that you have for how consistent they should be, or, how often they should send, anything in that kind of line that could be a good, I guess, takeaway for some of our realtors and how often to send cards?
So the most important thing is you got to be consistent. Don't start and then stop. Because what happens mentally in that homeowner's mind, you're inconsistent. One of the greatest things is just always be there. So once you pass, okay, I'm going to be always there, then the question is, how frequently are you there? The things we've seen and kind of assess ourselves, but more than anything else is we've seen studies or comments from agents who all they do is geographic farming. The range is on the very low side, 12 times a year. On the very high side, mail 24 times a year. Most of them seem to think that 18 times a year is probably the ideal. So I would say if you want to pick a number, mail 18 times a year. That's going to be every 3 weeks. And if you do that consistently, then you're pretty much there.
Well, that was kind of all the questions I had of ideas to maybe throw out there. I do think we're about out of time, if that's okay with you, to kind of start our wrap-up.
Okay.
But Beatty, thank you so much just for your time and expertise. I think this really was a great call and just a great continuation and, further going in depth about what postcards to send. Thank you for your time in that and sharing. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, I guess, before we officially close?
Well, always like to put a plug in for what we do. There is a lot that goes on in geographic farming and everything else. So if this is overwhelming, you want to see what we can do to help you, just go to agentdominator.net, agentdominator.net. This is a service we offer. Fill out the form. One of our team members will get back with you, and we'll walk you through a demo of what it is we do, how we can help you. And by the way, we also guarantee your sales at a minimal level, so that you can't lose money. And if we miss that guarantee, then you get your money back. So we stand behind it, but that way you can just kind of outsource everything. You stay focused on selling homes and leave the marketing to the experts who understand it.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a good plan, so they can make more money. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up the call, and then for those of you that are on the call live with us, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Beatty, just hold on, and we'll go into a short questions and answer time. And also, I think that was all we have. If you want to just hold and ask those questions with Beatty, and I think that's all we've got. So thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Caroline. Have a great day.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it so you never miss another episode. And please like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. Also, if you want to increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence, dominate a geographic farm, or convert home valuation leads, check out our Agent Dominator program. We create custom content that differentiates you from other realtors, then use it to keep you top of mind with your prospects with postcards, targeted Facebook ads, email campaigns, video interviews, and more. And the best part is we guarantee your sales or give all your money back. Learn more at GetSellersCallingYou.com and select Agent Dominator in the menu. Thanks for listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. Have a great day. If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it so you never miss another episode. And please like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. Also, if you want to increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence, dominate a geographic farm, or convert home valuation leads, check out our Agent Dominator program. We create custom content that differentiates you from other realtors, then use it to keep you top of mind with your prospects with postcards, targeted Facebook ads, email campaigns, video interviews, and more. And the best part is we guarantee your sales or give all your money back. Learn more at GetSellersCallingYou.com and select Agent Dominator in the menu. Thanks for listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. Have a great day.